You're listening to all of it on WNYC. I'm Allison Stewart. Robin Bird was one New York television icon. Now it's time to hear from another, George Whipple. George has spent more than 3 decades getting celebrities to stop on a crowded red carpet and actually talk to him. Along the way, he's become a New York institution in his own right. He's known for an easy rapport with A-list stars, and yes, for those eyebrows. The New York Times actually dubbed him the Eyebrow Man in a profile. But as the documentary Whipple's World reveals, there's a whole lot more to George. Director Adam Paul Verity joined me alongside George, and it was George who kicked things off by explaining how he went from being a lawyer to a New York One personality, and it involves Warhol.
Well, the way it happened is I started, when I got out of law school and went to work at Cravath, all of my friends were artists, but they weren't working 15 hours a day. And we were friends with a lot of New York City artists. And one of them, Andy Warhol, said to me, take pictures of your friends. So I became a photographer. Mm-hmm. So for a decade before I went on TV, I was a photographer for the New York Times and Harper's Bazaar, Town and Country. And so I spent a decade doing that. When photography went digital, I decided I wanted to make movies. Pretty damn ambitious. Went to NYU Film and Television, made the worst movie in the history of mankind, unwatchable. It had Tama Janowitz in it. It had Academy Award-winning actresses in it. It was so bad. So I decided, if you can't do it, report. Mm-hmm. And I was at the National Arts Club one day, and I looked up, and there was New York One. I said, 24 hours a day, they might have a minute for me.
That's what I tell graduates back when I started, that you have to look for a place that needs you, that wants you. And New York One was that place for you.
It was definitely that place for me. I beat down their doors for a year, and they said, nothing. And then the guy that ran the station, Steve Paulus, called Jill Brooke at CNN. And Jill said, this guy knows more in his pinky about New York, celebrity, society, nightlife than you could ever train a reporter and give him a chance. And then for a year, I made packages that were completely unairable. Again, I would not go away. Stayed all night, worked at the law office, and stayed all night making news packages. And finally, Paulus said to his second in command, make this guy airable. He will not go away. So we got to put him on the air, so make him do something that's airable.
Adam, why did you think there was a film in George's story?
I mean, it's a great question. Essentially, all of what you've described there with this 30-year history, and he's so recognizable in New York. Mm-hmm. Whilst I've been filming with him, he gets stopped on the street all the time. You have to imagine that I'm from England, right? I'm from the north of England, and I came over here about 10 years ago. I had no idea who George Whipple was. But my first job here in America was actually what they would call a photojournalist at New York One. And we would cover all sorts of different things. I was on a team, sort of the documentary team. So one day I'd be doing a drug bust with the NYPD in Staten Island. And then the next day I might be doing something with Frank Delella on the theater show. Mm-hmm. So it was a little bit of everything. And one day I get this email, tonight you're going to cover a red carpet with George Whipple. And I'd never covered a red carpet, never even been to a red carpet. And I certainly had never heard of George Whipple. So I had no idea what I was in for when later that evening I turned up to film this thing. George arrives customarily late. So I'm nervously awaiting his arrival. In he comes with the giant eyebrows and the amazing suit, And that was it. I was kind of hooked in. I was like, who is this guy? I had no idea. And so back at the station, I would hear these rumblings of all of these. Well, he's a lawyer, right? He's not just an entertainment journalist. He's a lawyer? How? What? And then I would hear, he's mentioned in a Beastie Boys record. Really? He was played by Darrell Hammond on SNL, right? No. So I just kept hearing this. And as you mentioned, the Declaration of Independence features. Just the history of the Whipple family in itself would have been an incredible documentary. But when you roll all of that into one, I sat there and I thought, what I would love to do right now is scroll through some streaming services and watch a documentary about this guy because he seems really fascinating. But there wasn't one. So I guess that was, if you like, the genesis of me starting to, explore the idea of making something with George.
George, you have such good chemistry with people on the red carpet. What's your philosophy about interviewing people?
Well, it's tough to say. I don't think it's a philosophy. I think it's just the way I deal with the world. I've never felt less than anybody. And I think that served me well with celebrity journalism. Mm-hmm. And I think it served me well as a business guy. They say there's nobody that can talk to a board of directors or a CEO like I can. And I think it's because I look at all people as equal. Mm-hmm. And I think the fact that I'm not intimidated or fawning is refreshing to the celebrities. And also the sure knowledge that I cover film and I work, like you luckily work, for a reputable journalistic organization. Pretty rare, mm-hmm. Hard to get a Peabody. We work for reputable news organizations where they've never asked me to get gossip or personal stuff, none of which I'm interested in. Mm-hmm. I cover film. And I love movies. My mother loves movies. I love actors. And I love talking to them about it. So I think those two things have allowed me to develop good relationships with celebrities, but mostly it's the eyebrows, I think.
We'll talk about those in just a moment. We're talking to Adam Paul Verite and George Whipple about the film Whipple's World, about George's life as a red carpet interviewer, a white shoe lawyer, and his life as a family man as well. What did you notice about George on the red carpet that you thought was interesting, that you thought that people would be interested in knowing more about?
I mean, just the simple fact that he's been doing this for 30 years is unusual. The red carpet experience isn't something that usually a journalist will do for so long. And I think the reason he's been doing it and the reason why he always is, getting those good sound bites from mm-hmm. people is the fact that he's built this relationship over this period of time. So, he always says to me, I'm not famous, but like George Clooney knows who I am, Mm-hmm. So it's I think a really interesting place that he sort of holds in this entertainment journalism because, when people see him, they make a beeline for him, even the ones who don't stop, like in the film, you'll see Lin-Manuel Miranda. He's not actually stopping for any press, but he yells back, "Hey, Mr. Whipple," because he didn't want to pass by without acknowledging. So, he just has this aura about him, and we joke about the eyebrows, but really, it's one of his most recognizable features. Everybody does know him as the eyebrow man. So even people who are walking the red carpet for the first time, as you'll see in the movie too, they get starstruck because they say, "George, I've been watching you on TV for 20 years," and so he's, in their mind, kind of a celebrity as well. And so it becomes more of like a conversation with somebody who, feels comfortable on TV. It's not just a microphone sticking into the shot. He's there with them. You know what I mean? He's a part of it. So, filming the behind the scenes of that was really fun and fascinating to see him just instantly strike up a rapport with somebody. You see Bryan Cranston at the beginning of the movie, and they're having a sword fight with their microphones. These things just kind of happen, and it was just really a fun experience to be there to film the behind the scenes of the red carpet.
George, did you ever have an image consultant say, "We need to work on your look"?
I had probably the greatest television man in the world look at me and say, "Yeah, we could put you on, but we'd have to cut your eyebrows and do this and do that."
Yeah.
So I've had an image consultant say everything I'm doing is wrong. And Columbia Journalism apparently did a little class where they talked about me and the image of, wearing a suit. I wore a suit as a photographer. I wear a suit as a lawyer. I wear a suit on television, and the image that we've created and the eyebrows, when I started on TV, it was like, well, Andy had this white wig and Tom Wolfe wore a white suit, and what am I going to do to be recognizable? And it took us 2 or 3 years to figure out it was the eyebrows. But now my hairdresser, Julian Farrell, he cuts them off all the time. So they're half the size. They're half the size of what they would be. They'd literally be coming at you if they didn't chop them. So image consultants I haven't done. This is just my upbringing. This is my genetics. This is who I am.
It's authentically yourself.
It's authentic.
Which is what I think people are picking up
That's
on.
what people always say to me. You're authentic. I am what I am. I'm not faking anything. I'm really, what you see is what I am.
You open the film, Adam. It's very interesting because George is looking down and then he looks up and it's showtime. He's ready to go. Why did you want to start the film that way?
I mean, one of the great sort of joys of making a documentary like this, aside from getting to follow and do the behind the scenes and the interviews and all of that, it's actually the archive, which was one of the other big appeals for me. At the beginning of the process, we talked to George about, wanting to make the film. And he said, well, I have 5,000 videotapes, right? And I said, no. And so one of the reasons why it's taken us a little bit longer than perhaps normal to finish a documentary like this, a feature documentary, is because we also were involved in the digitizing and then the cataloging of those 5,000 tapes. And so for me, just looking through these tapes that nobody has ever seen because they would have been recorded. These guys are doing three packages a week for 30 years. Wow. So, there's no time to reflect back on these tapes. So I'm getting these tapes and I'm seeing them for the first time and I'm scrubbing through and I find all of these moments that I think are just really fascinating, kind of under the hood moments that most people perhaps would have skipped past. But when I saw him standing there, it just signified to me the fact that he has probably just been in court all morning and he's gone straight to the shoot. He's standing there with his eyes closed, recuperating for a second until his camera person is ready to hit record. And so he counts them down, his eyes open up, the eyebrows pop, and he says, I'm George Whipple, and he's ready to go on a dime. And so for me, when I found that clip, I just immediately bookmarked it and just put it into the folder of start of the show. That's just, it felt like a great way of opening up.
George, for people who don't know, you are an attorney. You were recently named one of the best employment lawyers in America. How did you become interested in law?
Well, I think that I was very interested in going to public service as a young man and going into the political process. And the way to do that, the training for that was always considered the law. And so I went to law school and then got seduced a little bit by Wall Street and the greatest law firm in the world, Cravath, Swaine & Moore, and I've been practicing ever since then.
What is the way you interview people as a celebrity journalist, does it have a lawyerly-like aspect to it?
Well, it's interesting. Lucia Swanson, who was the deputy general counsel of Donaldson, Lufkin, Generata investment bank here in New York, once said to me, exactly what you do on television is what you do in the courtroom. You ask people questions and you tell compelling stories with the answers. And that was a very interesting, I thought, observation. So that made me realize that they are actually much more similar than I thought they were. I thought they were very much bifurcated. And then Brady Dugan, who was the first American CEO of a Swiss bank, said to me, can't you do for the bank what you do on TV? And we thought about that, and we made a weekly television show for the bank. So it's interesting what you're saying. And then we do Employment Law this week, which is a weekly television show about employment law. And the idea is they are similar. You've hit something that some people have observed. You've hit something. They are similar, but I didn't realize it. They were bifurcated in my mind.
It's very interesting in the film because we get a little bit into your family background. I want to play a little bit from Whipple's world, and we can talk about it on the other side.
Whipples came from Europe in the very first wave of immigration. This pattern was the official flag of the United States, and it's called the Whipple Peace Flag. It was designed by Wayne Whipple, We're proud that we're related to 3 signers of the Declaration of Independence. Charles Carroll of Carrollton, Stephen Hopkins, and William Whipple, who signed from New Hampshire. Abraham Whipple, one of our cousins, was a captain, and he rose to be Commodore in the American Navy. Well, that's the USS Whipple from the First World War. So Abraham Whipple inspired my direct ancestor, my great-great-great-grandfather, Benjamin Whipple, to join him. And he was captured in a naval encounter and thrown into the prison ship Jersey in Brooklyn. My great-great-great-grandfather's legs rotted off from gangrene, and his descendants, included the Reverend George Whipple, a famed abolitionist minister, Henry Benjamin Whipple, the first Episcopal Bishop of Minnesota, a great fighter for Indian rights, Susan B. Anthony, the great advocate for women's rights.
That's an amazing story about your family. You could have gone one of two ways. You could have been like just a man about town and enjoyed yourself. But you decided to go into a career in law and entertainment. Did you have a sense of, is it noblesse oblige? Did you want to do something with what you had?
The family has been radical for 400 years. No, seriously.
Yeah, no.
I mean, we came literally as slaves to this country, indentured servants. 7 years of servitude. We luckily had an escape at the end of those 7 years, and frankly, we ran away to be in Rhode Island where people were free. But we've been right in all aspects. I'm a descendant of a Native American 10 generations back, so we have that. We have so many people that have fought for the best of America for 400 years. And I've tried to do my part with philanthropy and political stuff to continue that tradition of, doing good. And I think a lot of, certainly my family, but a lot of, quote, old families in America feel that tremendous obligation because we're very proud of what we've created here. A country of immigrants where everybody has a chance and everybody should be equal. It's the goal. Has not been achieved. And we inch towards it, and then we get pushed a little bit back. But this is the country that we created, we died and fought for and bled for. And I love it, and I'm proud of it. And I want to do everything I can to make it live up to its promise, because it's only a goal, it's only a dream. We're not there yet, but it's a great dream.
That was my conversation with New York One correspondent George Whipple and director Adam Paul Verity about their new documentary, Whipple's World.